Has anybody ever been in New York City before? Raise your hand if you've ever been in New York City. Have you ever been in New York City on a subway train at rush hour? Okay, all right. So is it hectic? Is that fair to say? Okay, so then let me ask you this. Well, I guess I'll share this with you. So one time there was a guy, one time at band camp, there was a man who was on a subway train in New York City at rush hour. And it was hectic and chaotic. And one thing of note that was really distinct about that day is there were a bunch of small children just running all around, being obnoxious. You know, they were pushing each other into patrons on the train. They were being obnoxious, and these people are just kind of looking at them, because one of the things that was a real challenge was their father was just sitting there on a subway bench, just kind of zoning out like this, just riding the train. And all of these people were looking at him. And what do you think they were thinking? Do something about your children. So the protagonist of the story, he goes up to the man and he says, "Excuse me, sir," kind of on behalf of all of us, right? He said, "You know, your kids, they're running around, they're being crazy, they're invading other people's space, and you know, it's not fair to any of us, and I mean, frankly, it's not fair to them." And he was really disgusted. And about that moment, the man looked up, almost as if coming out of a daze. And as his eyes started to water, he looked up at the man and he said, "I'm so sorry." He said, "We just left the hospital where their mother just died, and I'm just not sure how to handle it, and I don't think they know how to handle it either." What do you think happened to him in that moment? How do you think he felt? So here's the thing. The man who tells that story is Stephen Covey, who wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he tells that story to talk about paradigm. And he says, if you want to make small changes in your life, change your behaviors. But if you want to make quantum leaps, change your paradigm. Because if you change the way you see the world, if you change the way you see things, the things you see will change. So when we get out of here today, knowing the topic of our session is driving business results after training events, we're still going to have the same challenge with budgets. We're still going to have the same challenge with learners wanting to be selling and not learning. You know, we're still going to have the same challenges with business and our markets and all those things. And the reality is, if we can see things a little differently, if we can trim tab some of the ways that we approach things and be a little more meaningful with resources we already have available to us, and change that paradigm of our sellers and ourselves, the outcomes can be significant. And I'm going to share with you not just academic theory, real-world examples, results. We're going to actually watch somebody who was part of this program talk to you about the success that they've had as a result of it. So I'm never about broad-based, abstract ideas. It's all about very specific verbiage and behaviors you can apply immediately upon leaving here to impact what you do, and that's my accountability to you, you know. So a little bit about me. I'm Paul Bickford. I am the Denver chapter president for the Sales Enablement Society, and I do some freelancing on the side, and doing a book and some other stuff, but mostly I'm just here for you, right? Which is really true. So, right, rule of 3, people remember things in threes, 3 musketeers, right? The 3 bears. So, little presentation skills, best practice. We're going to do 3 things. How do we define success? How do we get ahead of it, right? Beginning with the end in mind. And you're going to hear some really cool stuff when Bob Britton goes on after my piece. He's got some really cool things in here, and I'll be sitting in on his. There's some nice tether between our 2 sessions. Delivering content, creating and consuming the content from the learners, and then driving consistency, the secret sauce, the coaching and collaborating afterwards. And Bob's got some more detailed, sophisticated stuff on the coaching that he's going to do after this session as well. If you'd like to sit in on that, it's a nice dovetail. Okay? So what's the first piece? So what are we talking about? Right? Say it loud. Measurement, right? And by the way, when we do our activity and go back and forth, even though we can hear each other, for what we're doing, just go ahead and let us know, because we want to make sure you get a handheld mic just for what we're doing here with the audio. But I always say it's about microscope and telescope. So the microscope is looking at current state of the union. Where are we at? And I always say, what's the gap? You know, what's the gap between real and ideal? Because you don't want to set yourself up for failure. Hopefully, what we're being asked to do, or what we're choosing to create, is going to move business results, but make sure it's realistic. right? You guys know SMART goals, right? Right? Attainable and realistic. And so making sure if the reality's here and they want here, it's like, oh yeah, okay, so how much are we going to spend to bring in additional people, right? Or the one I always like, which is, we want all these things and I want it to take this long. And I said, well, for what you wanted, it's going to take this long. Well, it needs to take this long. I said, okay, well, which parts do we take out? Well, no, we still want, and you know what I mean? Being able to really honor and hold true to, there are trade-offs. And I think of the first rule of project management, good, fast, and cheap. Pick two. And it really is that simple. And having the gravitas and coming from a place of confidence and comfort to be able to have that conversation in a meaningful way and try to come to some kind of resolution. You know, do we space it out? Do we do phase 1, 2, 3? And helping, you know, kind of work through the details. So essentially, business needs. If we're successful, where's the needle going to move on your P&L stakeholder, senior leader? Where do we need to move that and by how much? So if we are going to move that business metric, what are the performance needs? What do people need to be doing and saying consistently to hit that number? So that's the performance, right? So we need to know what's the business end, which everybody wants the money. What do they need to do and say to make the money? And then what do we need to teach them so they do and say those things? And that's where the learning needs come in. And so oftentimes, not with a group as sophisticated as this for sure, but people come in and say, we need to teach people some stuff. We want you to do a training. We need you to facilitate bringing in somebody to do this. And one way to do it is to say, okay, you think, well, I'm doing my job. I'm taking care of my internal stakeholder. And one of the things I'll challenge you to do is to say no, but you don't say no. You say not yet. Or you say happily, but Corey, what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is you just ask some questions, understand about what we're trying to accomplish. Because when Corey comes to me as a vice president of sales and says, man, I got a lot of pressure on me, I really need training on closing the sale. And I say, absolutely. So again, if I'm a tactical practitioner, I go do it. If I want to be seen as a credible strategic player, then I say, if it's okay, I'd like to learn more about that. Why do we need training on closing the sale? So Corey might say, well, duh, because we're not closing enough sales. Is this really a conversation? He won't say that, right? And I say, well, help me understand that, Corey. So why aren't we closing enough sales? And Corey might say, well, I mean, you know, we're in these deals and we're losing to our competitors. And I say, huh. Well, I'm curious. I'm sure you've gotten feedback. Why are we losing to these competitors? And Corey says, well, because, well, they're cheaper, Paul. And so, I mean, you know, we're losing out because they're dropping the bottom out of their pricing, and it's hurting us. And I say, well, so why is that happening? He said, well, you know, we're worth the extra money, or we'd price our products the same way. Our guys just don't understand how to justify the amount of money we charge for the products and services we provide. And then I go, okay, well, if it's okay then, Corey, wouldn't it be fair to say you don't need training on closing the sale, but it sounds like we need training on creating value propositions and overcoming price objections? Is that fair to say? And Corey goes, yeah, okay, sure. And you start guiding these conversations, and that's when you start to be credible and seen as a strategic partner where they want to have you in those discussions versus having them without you and then saying, here's what we talked about, go do it. So these are some ways where you can challenge people and show them blind spots they don't even realize they have by doing root cause analysis. Ask why 5 times to what they say. That's an easy way to go. The Toyota 5 Whys, if you've heard of that, it's a really neat tool. But, and scaling, you know, and we'll talk about that later as far as ability. So, okay, I know where the needle needs to move on the P&L. We've assessed what people need to be doing more of or differently, doing and saying. So we know what we need to teach them. And so that's when we get into the other bookend. We go from microscope to telescope. Because see, those are our bookends. Those set us up for success. That way we're all locked, arm in arm, lockstep. Has anybody ever heard? There's a great thing I love to sometimes reference. It says, success has 1,000 parents, but failure is an orphan. Have you ever heard that before? Right? Right? So I'm curious, just for a quick hot second. There we go. So Jim, what does that mean?
You can't lose alone.
Right? Yeah. Well, right. And so if something's really successful, Anybody that was even close to it's like, well, I did that part, or it was my idea, or, I did this piece of the implementation, right? I sat in on the meeting and recommended we do it this way. But if it flops, it's not it. Nope. Frankly, I was worried this was going to happen, right? So this keeps that from happening, or it should, or have it happen less. Thank you, sir. Because when we get locked arm in arm, lockstep, and we say, for this to be successful, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and I'll do this, and if any of those doesn't happen, it won't happen. Is everybody good, and do you all understand why? Speak now or forever hold your peace. And that's another thing of orchestrating. We can't play all the instruments, but we have to be a good conductor. And it's about coming from a place of not, here's what I think, to here's what I've done. Here's what we've seen. We've got some fantastic data now that we've seen from Serious Decisions and CSO Insights to say, this is what best-in-class in companies do. Do we want to do it? And you're saying, this is what they say. I'm Switzerland, but you paying me to do this. Shouldn't we do these things to get similar results? And let the data guide you versus feeling like you're an underling telling people 3 levels up what they need to do. Can I get an amen? All right. Can I get an amen? Amen. All right, laying hands on and everything. So we've got our learning outcomes. So when I say I know what I need to teach people, we should have some outcomes that they know what to do. And so with my program, and you'll see it, we did a certification. Don't tell me you've been exposed to it. Prove to me you know it. I love taking if somebody goes, oh, I've already sat through that. I go, well, you can skip it. It's almost like an informal post-assessment. So tell me about the methodology and I know theoretically, I know I teach it, but tell me, about how you do it when you say it, when you're talking to a customer. Well, I don't really do it. Okay. Well, that's unconscious incompetent, right, versus unconscious competent, which is part of the SL2 model, right? So we know what we need them to learn so that they can do, so we can earn, right? I just made that up. Learn, do, earn. Jim, can you be do a little C with a circle around it for that? So performance outcomes and business outcomes. So we all know this is what we're going to teach them, this is what we want them to do, and this is what you need to hit with the numbers. And what's nice is you can scale the conversation. So if you say, okay, what level of involvement will you have in this initiative, stakeholder? Making sure there is action that they're taking. One time I worked for a company that you know about, Dave, and they were pushing, this is a $13 billion company, and they were introducing a new product, and this product was going into markets that had on average 40% margins, where traditionally we were talking about between 10 and 18% margins. So huge opportunity. So they reached out to all the higher ups around the country and said, will you support selling this product? This was wholesale distribution. And they said, absolutely, and they meant it. But guess what? They had to have a same call with those same people a couple months later and said, this isn't working. They go, what do you mean? We said we'd support it. And they said, yeah, but to support it means you need to hire people that are experts in that product category. You need to take space in your warehouse to dedicate to it and build relationships with vendors in that space. And you need to hire somebody that's a specialist at every single one of your branches. Because guess what? When it comes to ham and eggs, the chicken's involved, but the pig is committed. Okay? So I'll say the first part, you say the second part. When it comes to ham and eggs, the chicken's involved, but right. Do they have skin in the game? And I'm doing that with these stakeholders here. You want that happy to. This is the part I can control. This is the part I can't that you can. So we have to be savvy on change management. We have to be savvy with navigating that and showing them, again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm showing you this is what works and is best in class, and I'm here to help facilitate and orchestrate that for the results that you said you want. You just have to be diplomatic, but you still need to be confident and assertive in how you give your message. And I know Bob's going to have that tone as well with what he teaches you after I'm done. So, you like the lions? I needed some bookends, right? So remember, these are your bookends. The first one is business gaps. Where are we and where do you want to be? Is that realistic? Do we need to do this? You know what I mean? If it is this, that's fine. We need to do a whole lot of other stuff probably, and let's figure that out, right? And then we do the part that we like to do. Training, development, reinforcement. Now, it's a bookend. This should mirror that. So it's no surprise at the end it was successful, it wasn't. It's anecdotal. This one guy said it was great. It's like we get ahead of all that before we even do the training. And everybody's clear, And again, I always think of lockstep versus me looking at you, and if it fails, going, well, you didn't and he didn't. And then it's, well, we all knew what we all needed to do, and if it didn't happen, what do we do now, or what can we do to make it happen next time? It's a better conversation. So we had a group, case in point, so this is real world study, the Epicor BDR organization. So some challenges with this group. So I came in and they said, hey, we want you to focus on this group. They've never had formal sales training and attention. And they weren't hitting their quotas. So the quality of the leads wasn't as great, and employees had no formalized training. And these, by the way, these managers were brand new. Never managed people before. There were a couple that had, but they were still fairly fresh. One was anyway. And then guess what? They closed it, while this was happening, they closed an office. So we had 35 in one place and 25 in another place. They closed that office and hired to the cadence of what they lost plus some. So we already had a group to work with, and we had all these new people too, and new managers to scale out those employees as well. And so what I did was put together the Sales Excellence Certification Program. So do you remember what I talked about is not making sure just that they were exposed to it, but making sure that they heard it and then they start with the K. They know it. They understand it and they know it and they can speak to it without looking at the materials on their own. So then we looked at, let's make sure they can do it. So we did an oral certification. So they took a test like in school, and then we did an oral exam. Let's have a conversation. And they had to do that to prove they could do it. So now you can't say you don't know it, and you can't say, well, I don't know how to do it. So now we drive consistency with the management coaching, and that is the secret sauce. And Bob's going to go uber deep into this in the next session. You're going to want to attend that, because I don't get as deep into it here, but how to have the actual technical conversations, really important. Because what I run into, and I bet you've run into it if you've had the conversation, raise your hand if you've ever talked to a sales leader and said, hey, I'm just trying to get a feel. Do you coach your people? Anybody ever asked that question? Okay, if not, it's a great takeaway. You definitely want to at least do that, right? Have you ever had them say, yeah, I do it? Have you ever had the conversation I've had where you say, great, tell me about that? And they say, well, we get on the phone once a week. They're very proud of themselves. I'm teasing. But, you know, then they do. They feel good about it. And I'm not kidding, because they don't know any different. So it's not their fault. That's why we get paid. And they say, well, we get on the phone once a week. And we talk about deals. And we talk about pipeline. We talk about what do you need to close, because I'm a giver, you know. And then it's like, okay, well, that is fantastic. And gosh knows, VP, you don't need me to tell you keep doing that. Am I right? Give me some fist. All right? But I'll tell you, that has nothing to do with professional skills development coaching, and that's something that we're going to need a cadence of if this is going to be successful. And then teaching classes on and giving formal instruction on how to coach, how to skills coach. And there's a couple models I really like. I know Bob's going to speak to at least one of them in his piece. So the way we did it was, you have to prove you know it, you prove you can do it, and to get the credential, we called it a credential for Sales Excellence Level 1, I'm about to launch a Level 2 next week. I mean, well, 2 weeks from now. So you prove you can do it, and you have to hit your quota across a quarter to be certified that you have passed Level 1. It's not just passing the tests. Are you making it rain? Because you're doing it on a regular basis. So again, tying the credential to actual true performance. So you guys are going to laugh at this, and then you're supposed to. So I'm going to use my handheld mic. All right, drop it like it's hot. So do me a favor, Corey. Read this first panel of our sales coaching cartoon out loud in the mic.
Jim, your sales forecast stinks. You really have to do better.
Nice, thank you, thank you. Yes, Ray, you asked for the mic. Go ahead, sir. Why don't you read the next one?
Yeah, Lisa, your sales activity stinks. You really need to do better.
Okay, would you mind sharing, sir? Can you help us out?
Terry, your sales last quarter stunk. Do better this quarter or else.
Now, Tamara, I'd like you to read the last one, and I want you to really have a feeling of self-satisfaction and real peace of mind, like you're really in the right place and doing a good job with your job and your tone.
I just love helping and coaching my sales team.
Right. Is this the real world? I mean, seriously, right? So, and they really feel like that's the way to go, and they just don't know. So we've got to help them understand about supportive versus directive coaching. Because directive coaching is, right, when I go to Bob and I go, yeah, that call really wasn't great, so next time do this. And yeah, don't bring that up again. That's not good. And you really missed when there was an opportunity there. When the guy said this, you really could have jumped on that. Are we good? Okay, ready, break. Versus Bob going to me going, hey, how do you think that went? He listened to a response. Well, that's cool. So what about this one part over here? Is there anything you'd have done differently? Oh, yeah, like what? If not, oh, okay. Hey, do you remember when the meeting when we talked about trying to do more of this? Or do you remember the training that I sat in on with you, because managers should be in the training with their people and VPs should be in the training with their directors or managers? Do you remember we talked about this? How might that have applied? Nudging. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, man, but that's like pulling teeth. That takes a lot more work, but that's how people learn. Because see, when you get me to figure it out and I get my prefrontal cortex of my brain that handles problem solving and critical thinking skills, not only am I more apt to remember it and do it, but I get the buy-in because I said it versus you saying it to me. So they need to learn that stuff. So essentially what we did, again, and they get a lot of credibility with this. So versus, I'm your manager, we're doing the sales certification program, we've taught it, take the test, I'll do the oral exam with you. I'm like, hey, I certified them. I'm like, your managers took this test to prove they knew it. They went through the oral certification with me and their boss to ensure they can do it. So we're drinking our own Kool-Aid here, guys. And they get a lot of credibility with that. And I said, when you do coach them, don't just tell them what to do. Get on the phone and you talk to a customer and show them. I'll take one and you take one. I had a sales coach that reported to me at Comcast. He did a fantastic job. And he'd say, I'll be vulnerable. And he was brilliant enough to do some things wrong on purpose, little things, to be approachable and human and vulnerable so they could call him on stuff and they were open to getting feedback. And I'm like, that's a leader. Walk the walk. Yes, sir, we need the mic. Drop the mic, drop it like it's hot. Can we?
What's an example of one of those small things you would do wrong on purpose?
Oh, so he might, so the question was from the audience, what was one of the small things that he might have done wrong on purpose? And so it could be as simple as not asking open-ended questions. Because, telling's not selling. You got to diagnose before you prescribe. When I was in sales, I used to think the heart of selling was the really savvy value proposition or the really solid closing technique, And the heart of selling is asking the right questions so the customer sells themselves, And so that might be something where he just asked closed-ended questions, or he may not have built rapport before he went into opening the call or what have you. So it'd be different things, but Steve was really good at finessing that and getting someone that was intimidated to be like, okay, this is going to be all right. And they would just literally, they'd see customers, they'd take turns. So I just threw that as an example, okay? Show them what good looks like. Any training, side note, don't say, this is how you do it. Say, this is how you do it. I'm going to show you how to do it. I like to do it, me personally, I do what I call schizophrenic role plays, where I'll play the role of the customer but I also have real calls or real videos of real, actual, Now go practice it and get feedback from me and your peers in the learning environment. So we did coaching training and scaling the coaching time and ability. I worked at, when I worked for Trulia, the real estate website, I worked for Comcast, I worked for some software companies and different things. And there was one company, they had 21 salespeople per sales manager. So the training content sound, the training methodology sound, yeah, go scale that out. And by the way, best practice is you spend 3 to 5 hours per month with each person. So that's 100 hours, that's 2.5 weeks. You got a week and a half to do whatever else you have to do. That's fair. So we did a team lead program who could help. Gave them quota relief and they were responsible for doubling whatever their quota relief was through helping the other people. There are ways to work through this stuff, but let's figure out what we're working with and make sure we're on the same page with what's realistic and what's fair. So, and then coaching forms and tools. Don't just say you're coaching, have people say, I'm definitely coaching. Let's figure out, is it working? And if it's not working, is it because the coach needs help on coaching techniques themselves, or is that person not coachable? Is it that they need help on coaching to a specific competency? If I don't have data and coaching forms and coaching tools, I won't know that. Because hope's not a strategy, right? So then one of the last things here, and then we'll do our activity, we'll show the video, is peer collaboration. So I always tell managers, I say, look, when I work with your groups, here's what's going to happen. I said, I'm going to get them excited about it. I really will. I said, they're going to be like, this is going to work. This is awesome, this is great. And it doesn't mean anything in the way of getting results, but it is nice to have. And then you're gonna be, I'm more carrot your stick. Instead of going, yeah, we went through that training, it's like, you understand, like, this is the way we do things now. That can also be a cultural obstacle if every month there's a flavor of the week, or now we're gonna do this, now we're gonna give you this methodology, and they're contrasts. You've gotta have consistency. And if you haven't, you just say, I know it's been that way before, but now this is the way we do things as an organization. This isn't just a flavor of the month. And the magic happens when this happens. Because somewhere between me keeping them excited and the manager holding them accountable, and it comes down through the crucible, somebody somewhere, usually it's several, they start experiencing success to the surprise of themselves as they get confident and comfortable. And they have what I call that water cooler moment of, holy cow, this stuff really works. Like, I know they're saying this, but like, no, like really, like I did it, and like this, like it worked. Because I think sales is the closest thing to magic we have in the real world, where you can just, through the art of influence, say things and take somebody from completely from, a stance of this to coming over there and saying, well, tell me more about that. How would you help us with that? And asking you to sell them and not even being aware of it. And if we can empower people to do that, they get excited. Now all of a sudden, we're not pushing it, they're owning it, they're taking it from you. And you're gonna see a video of somebody that did that at our company and caught on like hotcakes. And I'm not taking credit. I always tell these managers, I'm like, look, I'll do my part, but if you don't do yours, this will fail, and they'll tell me it's my fault. So trust me, you're the heroes when this works, not me. And that also helps with the whole political thing, I find, as well, from a messaging standpoint. So peer collaboration, and you'll see the guy I'm going to show you on this video, he created a peer mentorship program. It happens informally, but he created, on his own, unprompted, a specific program after somebody said, would you mentor me on this? And you'll hear about the guy. The guy was ready to quit. He'd been there 4 months. He hadn't hit his quota or even come close. He's like, maybe this just isn't for me. And you'll hear about where Cater talks about he started doing peer coaching on his own, unsolicited. Well, the guy asked for his help. And within 2 months, he hit his quota. He was the #2 quota attainment in his entire group in 2 months. So it pays, and it pays fast. It pays now, depending on the length of your sales cycles. But I'm saying that the proof's in the pudding. And I don't get ahead of myself too much, but voluntary, self-directed. We just did a panel on millennials and Gen X. Some of you were in that earlier. And they want to figure it out. They want problem-based learning. They want to figure it out. They want to pioneer what they're doing. Think of the guy climbing the wall with the hooks. And that's that kind of thing. And it creates a leadership bench. Because guess what? Are you in a situation where you have millennials that want to get promoted yesterday and you don't have any place to put them? This is a double win because they get accountability. They see they're being developed for leadership, and you don't have to put them in a role. And their peers recognize it as well. And then you got other people saying, well, how do I get to do that? And they're asking you if they can help you do your job. Who wants to be in that position? I'm serious. This is real. All right. Aliens are real. All right. So then the last part here, and watch the video, communities of practice. You want to capture tribal knowledge. You want to do things. But one of the things is sales meetings. Making part of the sales, part of every sales meeting, when I teach sales meetings for managers how to have a motivational sales meeting they want to come to, make part of it about development. Make part of it about roundtable. It can be as simple as one guy going, man, I'm running into this problem, and I can't seem to overcome that objection. Okay, who's really good at that? Or, John, I know you're good at that. You say what the people say to you that you can't get past, and you overcome it. That was real hard. So we don't want to overthink it. We just got to be good conductors. Don't feel like you got to learn how to play all the instruments, So peer discussions, that's more informal, and then team work groups. So sometimes we'll have that within teams where they have work groups to work on specific things, whether it's industry knowledge or specific things, and they kind of like a subgroup, and they bring it back to the masses. And millennials thrive on that. So here's a platform I'm looking into because it's like there's all this stuff. If you know, anybody familiar with the concept of knowledge management? How do you take what's in somebody's brain that's never going to end up in some formal marketing collateral and keep it? And there are attempts to do that, but there's something I've been looking at recently that I'm trying to get us on board with Epicor called Just Sold It, and it's cool because it's not about a platform where salespeople are told you have to use it like a CRM. It's about where they want to use it because it's like if Renee sold a customer and I've got a deal, I literally can just type in, it's a deal of this size in this vertical, boom, and it tells me who's recently closed the deal while it's fresh in their head. And I can reach out and say, what'd you do? And he can very easily just go, I did this, I did that. If you want to get on a call, yeah, I talked to this guy, definitely avoid this. That stuff's never going to end up in a marketing white paper. Do you see what I mean? So it's a great way to capture that stuff, keep it real world, And we're talking about stuff that is timely and relevant, and it's simple. I like it because it's not about the platform, it's about the connectivity. Is that refreshing? Everybody take a deep breath. Right? It's about an enabler versus about making it all about the technology, if that makes any sense. Very easy user interface, kind of a mobile pop, back and forth. But anyway, so that's something I'm looking into to formalize it, because the other piece is we can start to now capture that stuff. And we're not telling the salespeople, you need to sit down and give us all your time to tell us everything that you did. And they're like, I'm not going to tell you that because I'm competing against these people for President's Club. Not that they would all feel like that. But the other thing is, and plenty of them are willing to help. But it's nice because even if that is their mindset, there are ways that they set it up where they actually can get, credit towards their President's Club for helping people close deals. So there's some really cool stuff that's very innovative and cutting edge that I was just like, wow. So I'm trying to see if we can get on board, and I figure there are several others that will probably be vying for the same opportunity. But anyway, was it perfect? Am I sitting up here telling you it's perfect? And I probably do sound a little like that, but I want to keep it real. It wasn't and isn't. But we did overcome those challenges for the most part. I'm keeping it real. You and me, right? All right. I just don't sell that way. Anybody ever run into that with any training? That's just not how I do it. And I love the Dr. Phil, how's that working for you? Right? And it's funny because when I do these launches, I say, hey, look, if you're killing it, I don't want to mess you up. I will say this. I say, if you're killing it, though, and there are things in the methodology to overcome and steer and guide, and we listen to you, you are killing it, but there are things in what we're teaching that you could be doing, too, to make you even better. We're going to hold you accountable to that. And if not, that's okay, too. So it's not that somebody's off the hook. It's always like, well, they don't have to do it. It's like, well, they're doing 400%. We don't want to be that high. But, they're hitting their quota, and they're doing a good job, and their leads are becoming actual deals that are closing and making money. You're at 60%. Enough said? And so in a gentle way. But, there's a point where you just say, hey. And so, what the really cool thing is? It's the new people that crush it. Make the tenured people go, wrong? That's my Scooby-Doo, like, what? And so, it was funny because I was talking to somebody the other day, and there's like, it's kind of embarrassing, and I've been doing this longer. I said, man, it's not your fault. They're fresh, they're a clean slate. We had to erase your chalkboard and then get started. Is that a dated reference? So the thing is the Etch-a-Sketch, right? But the point is letting people know, hey, it's okay. We just have to rework where you are. And so the next challenge, I don't have time to coach. Okay, well, let's see what that means and why that is. I think of IBM or PepsiCo years ago did a coaching program, and they had managers say, we don't have time, we've got this operational responsibility and these administrative responsibilities and these other things, and we can't. And I forget, and I wish I could remember which. Tim O'High knows, he's where I learned this from. Whichever company it was said, well, give me the list of the things. And they literally took it from him and said, you don't have to do that anymore. Now what's your excuse? And it's like, So it was like they had never been taught that way, or they were worried about, now I'm really accountable, I want to make sure. And so some ways it was a way to find you're not in the right seat. In some ways it was a find you need more help. In some ways it was a find you know how to do it, you just don't want to, so let's pick a side. But I thought that was really cool because it's about empowering and engaging and saying with coaching, because we know it's going to make money, we'll be able to afford the additional staff we'll have to hire to do this other stuff because that's your bread and butter. When I teach sales managers, I say it's like if you're coaching Michael Jordan. If you're coaching Michael Jordan, do you want him sitting on the bench handing out Gatorade? Do you want him looking at travel logistics for your away games? Or do you want him shooting baskets? So by the same token, do we want salespeople doing back-end customer service and administrative tasks and system stuff, or do you want them selling? Do you want sales managers looking at reports all day, or do you want them out there coaching? Same kind of stuff. And again, it's up to us to sell that upstairs to drive it downward. So the next option or obstacle we had was, this is just too structured. And one thing I've learned to say is, hey, look, we're not trying to create sales robots, okay? We're really not. What I say is honor the structure, because it's been proven to work, or we wouldn't be teaching it to you. Honor the structure, but own your style. Whenever they say, I used to get really proud of this, because I was a President Club sales guy, and I really felt like it gave me credibility always when I would do it, and they go, because I would practice it in front of them, they go, wow, you're really good. And I'd be like, well, yeah, it's the hair, But seriously, but I learned but then I learned the other side of it, though, was they were going, you're really good, and I can't sound like you, I can't do that. And they didn't say it, but I learned I needed to hear it, if that made sense. So I learned to say, look, don't sound like me, sound like you, but use the structure. So I learned to go, hey, look, how would you say it? And whatever they say, I go, then do that. Unless they miss, one of the spots in the methodology with the conversations. And so empowering people to say, be you, but don't get so crazy with making it your own, you deconstruct what works. So it's a balance between, form and function or style and structure. This feels uncomfortable. This feels uncomfortable. Anybody ever get that? This doesn't feel right. I don't like it. It just... And so there's a curve, right? Because human nature, we want to be comfortable. We're always looking for stasis, homeostasis, right? And so it feels wonky. It feels weird. I don't like it. So everybody do something with me. Fold your arms the way you normally fold them. Okay? Now, fold them in a way that's very uncomfortable, which would be the opposite way, if that's even the way to say that. God, this feels weird. Doesn't it feel weird? Okay, you can stop. So it takes 21 days to make a habit, and science has proven, you can do this on your own if you really chose to. If you fold your arms the weird way for 21 days, on day 22, you're not even paying attention, you lean back in a chair and you go to fold your arms, hand to God, you will fold them the weird way. You will fold them the way that just felt so uncomfortable. And that's why we've got to take the integrity and discipline and character to drive this stuff through to where there's a level of confidence and comfort. And that's why the coaching is the secret sauce. We got to help them understand it's not always going to be that way. So we can get that first peer champion to say, holy cow, this stuff really works. And hey, it's not that tough. That's what helps drive it, because it's not me saying it or their boss, it's one of their own. So, and then this is one I've been helping some people with. Y'all see that one? Who are you to coach me? And it's their peer. And it's a guy that's new. It's a guy that's been there 6 months and they've been there 2 years. That's cool, right? And so helping them understand. I've been working a lot with them on stuff like that around, hey, look, you don't have to. I'm just here to help if you want it. It's not about me. It's about the information. And I say, get somebody else that was like them, that felt the same way, that's now killing it, that they weren't before you helped them. Let them go talk to them without you around. So there's lots of ways. I won't take a lot of time. There's lots of ways to address that, but that is still an obstacle for sure. And so this is the wrap up, and we'll watch the video and do our activity. So first, assess. See if we can remember, usually I give out $5 Starbucks gift cards when I do trainings, but for you guys it's like free drink tickets or something, I guess. I don't know. But so if you remember with measurement, we had 2 measuring devices I used as metaphors. Do you remember what they were, anybody? Microscopes and telescopes. Microscopes, where are we at? Telescope, where do we need to go? Right? Those are our bookends. Mixed metaphors here, right? And then we go to align. Is everybody on the same page? Senior stakeholders, you know what you need to do. Managers, you know what you need to do. I certainly know what I need to do. Do we need anything for marketing? Are we all on the same page in the trust tree in the nest? Before we launch this thing off, speak now, forever hold your peace. So we're all aligned, marching lockstep, right? And then train. Now we do the part we like to do, at least part I like to do. Get out there, train them. Make sure you create a training where in the learning environment they can do skills practice. Make sure you show them what good looks like. Make sure their managers, their bosses are in the training with them conjointly. Now we enable. We're doing the coaching. We're making sure they have the coaching tools. We're making sure we're supporting them with the consistency of reinforcement in meetings and otherwise. And then now we measure. And you know the cool thing is, if you have the integrity and the discipline and the thoroughness to go through all this, if you don't hit it, it's fine. It's just a matter of, and it's not pointing fingers, it's saying, where did we miss? Or we need to do more of things. Or there's something we needed to train on that we didn't do that we needed to do. And that's okay. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I can promise you, I tell when I work with groups on my own, I'm like, look, for every $1 you spend with me, you'll make 10 if you only do half the stuff I tell you to do. Like if you do like a poor job at this, of a cautionary tale of what not to do, you'll still make 10 to 1 for what you spend on something like this. Now I'm going to introduce you to Cater Tuvey. Cater is, he's been a real champion of the program, and he's probably our biggest story of success. So without further ado, I'm going to let him share.
Hey everybody, this is Cater Tuvey. I'm a senior BDR here at Epicor, and I took Paul's sales enablement training back in October of 2016, after which I just started applying it like everybody else on the phones, certified on it in February of 2017, and after the certification, I just felt redoubled, I felt reinforced, and so I hit the ground running really on the phones. Before long, my production changed. It went from having 20 to 30 quality conversations a month to about, I'd say 80 to 70 quality conversations a month. I went from having 1 to 2 appointments a month to over 100% of my quota each month, month over month. Before long, my manager approached me, said, "Hey, one of your colleagues asked if you could mentor him." I said, "Sure." You know, after talking to Smiley for the first time, I found out that he was actually going to quit. Going to quit very soon because he hadn't made goal in the 2 months once that he was here. You know, I worked with Smiley, and that first week when he went out, he actually went out and started getting appointments that very week, and achieved his monthly goal that month, and went on to achieve his quarterly goal, which is really amazing. And so Smiley doubled back and went to my boss and said, "Hey, we gotta make this into a program." And so we went ahead and I went ahead and threw some framework around what Smiley and I talked about, Paul's training, and through some reinforcement, built some reinforcement into the program. And so yeah, we have some great successes. Let me tell you what. For example, Jimmy Bear. Jimmy joined the organization back in March of 2017, and Jimmy had not made goal all the way until, we were in July 2017, and he still hadn't made goal. Jimmy joined our program, and before you knew it, Jimmy he made goal last quarter, his first quarter making goal, and he brought in the second highest amount of new license revenue in his department, $190,000. Man, that's amazing. This is powerful stuff, guys. And so, you know, the program is simple. You know, you pass 3 pillars and you certify on them, and then you turn around and teach somebody else. So we built the leadership aspect into the program as well. And so, you know, this has been just really a blessing to have Paul training us, giving us this information, not only giving it to us, but, you know, a way to reinforce it. We've set up a way to reinforce it so that, you know, people have the tools that they need to be able to be successful here at Epicor. So this stuff really does work. As you can see behind me, myself, I've gone on to receive numerous awards and trophies, leader of the year. I mean, you name it. The people on our leadership board now, they're getting leader of the quarter. They've really stepped out of their shells. It's just really, really amazing stuff.
So anyway, so that's his story. And you know, it's funny, he's giving me credit. And I won't take credit for the training, but the success is the managers. The success of this, which I'd love to take credit for, isn't mine or the managers. This is homegrown as somebody saying, I have a passion for this. This is working for me. I want to share my successes. And he did all this. He built this whole program around it and infused it. And all he did, he asked me for help on how to build a business plan and some mentorship stuff. But then after that, he just took off. And he's just done really, really, really well. So anyway, we thought it was really great. So with that said, now we're going to do a very quick activity. So what I'd like us to do is count off 1 through 4. And so if you can't count that high, just pick the number of the person before you, unless you have a 4, and then you got to start over. So I know it's complex.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 3. 1, 2. 3. 4. 1, 2. 2.
Okay, so we're going to do a bit of an abbreviated activity at this point. So 1s, come up here. 2s, slide over there. 3s, you hit that one, and 4s, you hit this one. And if you don't have a marker, let me know. And I just want you as a group to take just a couple minutes and write down your biggest takeaway of what you've learned today you can apply in your organization. The biggest takeaway you've learned as a group, you know, as you consolidate, just take a couple minutes and say, this was the aha moment for me. Or this is the thing I think we can apply the most easily or the fastest to help us with what we're trying to accomplish.
You got markers up?
I do. I've got markers. I set some on the floor back by there. I was strategic by the end of one or both of those. Oh, it's on this side? So there's one there, but not there. Take this. So 4s are over here. We're a very abbreviated activity. So does anybody need a marker? Okay. Here you go. Here. I did. They took our jobs. Right. Go ahead. The South Park? Yeah. All right. So go ahead, you know, just kind of chat through briefly and say, well, and you probably, hopefully you have a few takeaways, but what conjointly as a group, as a subgroup, what was your biggest takeaway, that most common, if that makes any sense, but don't overthink it too. We don't want to pole vault over anthills with this, but just, you know, something that's a big aha moment shared by as many as possible and just kind of document it, be prepared to tell us all as a big group, if that's okay. I'll go old school. If I could have everybody's attention up front, and I always hate doing this because this is where the real learning happens, you know? Because Bob was talking about, and when we did our generational panel interview about the different ways people learn, and one I noticed that you hadn't referenced, but I know you know it, is people learn through visual, audio, kinesthetic. Got to be doing something. Can't have any kind of systems training without kinesthetic, but that's a side thing. And then social, and that's what you were all doing. It always like hurts my heart to go, all right, we got to stop and go back to this because we have to wrap up. But when you construct training, make sure you leave that time. It's better for you to cover half of the content you wanted to and create more time for this and application than to cover all of it and check the box on a data dump because they haven't learned it and they can't do it and they won't do it. I mean, seriously. And I'm not always good at it. And so and I teach this stuff and I'm like, yeah, but we have to cover the setup of phase 2. Ready, break. Anyway. All right, so since 60% of people are visual learners, please make sure you are positioned so you can see each flip chart as each team shares what it is that they have come up with. So if I can have a spokesperson just share what you popped down, my personal friend and colleague.
We like the certification and the components of it that included the pillars.
All right, let's listen up, guys. Go ahead.
The pillars, tying in quota attainment to it. That was really pretty interesting. So it was like, 4 stages, I guess it would be. Quota attainment, right? And then also you do it for the managers, the reps, and then the peer program, like we heard on the video. So collectively, that was kind of our key takeaway is the certification process.
Thank you. Thank you. Give them a hand. Golf clap. Okay. All right. So team 2, if we can pass the torch of the microphone. Mike, you had a lot of things to say in your group. If you can just share with us, everybody make sure you can see the flip chart. What did you write down, sir?
Sure. Well, first, we did listen to the first 50 minutes of your presentation, but our favorite thing was right at the end. You had an enablement success story. Yeah. We do customer success stories. We don't have enablement success stories.
Capture it because it'll help you with other groups too. When you move, especially if a large company, you're moving into divisions, they don't know each other. Say, look, I don't know what your experience is, but here's what we've done with these guys. And you get so much more than what you could try to tell or sell. So yeah, thank you for that. I agree. That's why I put it in there. All right, so let's pass the torch, the baton of the microphone to, and then we'll close it up. So what did you guys have down? Let's make sure we can see the flip chart.
I don't know if I need this. I have a loud voice too. We went through quite a bit. I think where we landed was the peer-to-peer is just so valuable rather than feel like you're being told or talked at from somebody, a senior who has to make you a mandate, if you will, just to learn from somebody that is going through the journey with you on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis is pretty important.
Yeah, your brothers in arms. The people, Jeffrey Gittimer one time talked about, he said, if you want to look at your sales trainer, look at their shoes. And what he's talking about, where your boot's on the ground, have you done it? Can you do it? And when's the last time you did do it? So being fresh. And when, that's why I still try to go on sales calls and get on calls and show them and stuff so that I can make sure, am I still doing it right? Am I still credible, right? Go ahead, Dave.
I don't know that we were that far different than a lot, and I think for us, the peer mentoring part of it was huge. Because I think you can go through training, but when you leave and have that touch point and that peer to bounce those, I've always loved that engagement with somebody that's better at C-level, somebody's better at operations, and having that interconnection, whether they're junior or senior, and even somebody like to your point that's new coming on, they're going to bring new ideas and things that may be out of the box for you. So the peer mentoring was great. As a component to that, the coaching, don't ask, don't tell, self-assessment. I've always been taught, when you leave a meeting, would you do right, would you do wrong, what would you do better? Self-assessment versus being told what you did wrong, what you could do better,
right.
is hugely important. And other than that, Paul's a rock star. So.
Oh, look at you.
We knew that.
I'm going to get you a Christmas present for that. Thank you, sir.
That's more brownie points. You always
Appreciate
do that with
it. Air fist. I paid him to do that. Okay. All right. So with that, again, my esteemed peer, Bob Britton's going to do a piece if you choose to go after that. It's going to be deeper on, more on the front end of how on doing that needs assessment, the telescope, periscope, really deep on how to have the actual coaching conversations and how to teach that and some other cool stuff based on Bob's background. Hey, seriously, you guys are my customers. As people say, you're so passionate about sales. Why'd you get out of sales? I said, man, I'm in sales every day. I got to sell these senior leaders to give us money and these managers to do the coaching and these people to feel like what I'm doing is going to help them and worth their time. So if it was, I want to thank you for being here. And you guys give yourselves a hand for your participation. Okay? All right. Any final questions? If not, you are knighted. Go forth, be fruitful, and do this stuff and make money.
Paul did a really great session. It was educational, it was real based on his experience, and it was entertaining. And I think anytime you go to a session like this, you've got to have some type of really engaging speaker. And then we also did an activity at the end. So he got us out of the chair, had us writing on the wall. It was great.
But what I get out of it, and a lot of it comes from his enthusiasm, but some of the structure. So, for example, the certification programs I thought was very good and very well set up. And then also the peer-to-peer. So once you go through the rep training, the manager training, and the peer-to-peer training, I thought that was all very, very good.
He has a system in place where people are trained step-by-step in business development, and then they're certified for it. And I thought that was like really, really cool.
What I really loved was the fact that I can't believe I never thought of this before, but the whole let's get everybody on the same page and make sure we can trust that each other is going to do it.
He believes, he's very passionate about it, and it's extremely obvious in how he delivers that. But he's not all about him, it's all about the success of the program and stuff, and to me that makes him a rock star.
But I'm so excited about his presentation because I feel like there's hope now because of him and what he said and who he is and what he's done.
It's the credibility, it's the passion, and he's done it. So I think those are really key things.